Hi, I'm Doug Wexler. I'm an ornithologist, photographer, and children's book author, and I've been looking into seasonal or ephemeral wetlands for the past 2 decades. Seasonal or ephemeral wetlands are of great importance to birds and other wildlife, and even to us. We'll take a look at 4 important seasonal wetland types across the country. In the eastern United States, we'll look at vernal pools. In the northern prairie region, we'll investigate prairie potholes. In California, we'll examine, you guessed it, California vernal pools. And in the Texas Panhandle, we'll take a look at playas. Vernal pools in the east are generally small to tiny wetlands that fill with autumn rains. As you go south in the coastal plain, some become much larger and take on other names. We'll look at vernal pools known as Delmarva bays. Prairie potholes are particularly prominent in the Dakotas, Montana, Minnesota, and adjacent parts of Canada. As I will explain, some potholes are seasonal and some are permanent. California vernal pools are distinct from their eastern namesakes. They are best known for their incredible wildflower displays, but they are critical habitat for waterfowl and other birds as well. Playas in the south-central part of the country are large, shallow wetlands that fill up and dry out on an erratic schedule. One thing most of these wetlands have in common is the lack of fish. Without predatory fish, a diversity of amphibians and specialized insects and other invertebrates can thrive. We'll start in the east with vernal pools. A vernal pool is a small, seasonal wetland that does not have a stream flowing in or out of it. They generally fill up with the fall rains and dry out in summer. In the coastal plain of the eastern U.S., there are larger vernal pools. For example, in the Delmarva Peninsula, these larger pools develop more vegetation and have a higher diversity of wildlife. These are also known as Delmarva bays or whale wallows. That creative name stems from a far-fetched theory that they were created at a time when the coastal plain was underwater and whales stranded in the shallows would thrash about creating depressions. A more likely theory is that winds blew the soil, creating depressions during a time when the landscape was barren. These large open vernal pools develop more vegetation than their smaller woodland counterparts. Like other vernal pools, they dry up in summer. Some animals, such as fairy shrimp, are completely dependent on vernal pools for their existence. Their life cycle is keyed to the seasonal drying of the pools. The eggs won't hatch until the pool has dried out and filled again. Vernal pools are particularly known for their importance to amphibians. Wood frogs and spotted salamanders are two widespread amphibians characteristic of vernal pools. These amphibians can also breed in other fishless bodies of water. The fish-free pools are also home to a diverse community of insects, many of which, like this dragonfly nymph, spend their juvenile stage in the water, then leave the pool for an aerial existence. This spread-winged damselfly is laying its eggs in the stem of an emergent aquatic plant. Insects and amphibians provide a great food resource for birds, like this red-winged blackbird gathering recently transformed damselflies for its young. This fledgling red-winged blackbird was raised in a nest in a buttonbush growing in the pool. Amphibian larvae like this marbled salamander are another food source for birds. Here, a green heron has snatched a metamorphosing frog from the pool. Of course, lots of other wildlife, like this eastern mud turtle, also live in and around the pools. Prairie potholes are found across a 300,000 square mile stretch of 5 northern Great Plains states and 3 Canadian provinces. The region once contained about 25 million wetland depressions. Glaciers in the Pleistocene left behind big blocks of ice surrounded by sediment. When the ice melted, it left depressions in the sediment, which filled with water, creating ponds and lakes called prairie potholes. Unlike the other wetlands I'm discussing, these potholes may be seasonal or permanent. Here you can see the pothole on the right that appears to be permanent or semi-permanent, and one in the lower left that is the seasonal nature. Some call the prairie potholes the duck factory, which is an apt description. Ducks like the ruddy duck, blue-winged teal, northern shoveler, redhead, and American widgeon nest there in large numbers. Virtually every one of the thousands of pools has waterfowl on it. Prairie potholes produce 50% of the continent's ducks, even though they only comprised 10% of the area of waterfowl habitat. And it's not just ducks. Pied-billed grebes and eared grebes nest in the potholes and perpetuate the species there. Shorebirds like this Wilson's phalarope and willet feed in the potholes and breed nearby. Here we see 4 willet chicks feeding in the shallows of a prairie pothole. An upland sandpiper nests near the potholes. This species benefits from insects that have left the pool and moved into the prairie. Other birds like black tern and yellow-headed blackbird breed in the extensive marshes. Conversion of prairie pothole areas to agriculture is a major cause for the decline of waterfowl and other pothole birds. Even if the pools survive, lack of surrounding cover can prevent nesting. Along with prairie conversion for agriculture, fracking has been an additional source of habitat degradation. 30% of the prairie pothole region sits over the Bakken Shale Formation, the site of much of the current fracking effort. Loss of habitat due to construction of roads and drilling pads is just one of the negative impacts of fracking on the pothole fauna. California vernal pools can be found from eastern Washington to northern Baja California. The largest concentration and most biologically diverse pools are found in California's Central Valley and formerly in San Diego County. California vernal pools are unlike their eastern namesakes, and in many ways more like playas. They tend to be large and shallow with no woody vegetation. Though in some places there are small pools in a bumpy landscape of small hummocks called mima mounds. California vernal pools are famous for their incredible spring displays of annual wildflowers, which appear as the pool dries up in spring. As pools fill with fall or winter rains, the pools feed numerous birds such as these avocets. The birds feed on the abundant invertebrates such as fairy shrimp, many of which are endangered, and tadpole shrimp, which have been around for 250 million years. That's 190 million years longer than their avian predators. Amphibians, like this California tiger salamander larva, thrive and provide another important food source for birds. Because the pools are shallow, stilts and other shorebirds can forage over a wide portion of the pool. Migratory shorebirds, such as this greater yellowlegs, rely on the pools as stopover refueling sites, as do long-billed dowitchers and many species of waterfowl. More than the other wetlands I mentioned, California vernal pools are habitat for a large number of endemic plants unique to these wetlands, as well as a number of insects like this miner bee on Downingia. California vernal pools are severely threatened. This satellite photo shows one of the few vernal pool areas left in San Diego County. An airport and housing developments have taken up much of the original natural landscape. The colored areas represent vernal pools identified in the Ramona, California area. Much of their value to wildlife has been lost as a result of urbanization. Here they are barely hanging on in an urban landscape. Over 96% of vernal pool habitat in San Diego County has been lost. Playas are found primarily from the Texas Panhandle north to Nebraska. Playas are large, shallow, ephemeral wetlands of the southern Great Plains. They have an erratic hydroperiod, meaning when they will fill or empty is unpredictable and depends on the weather. There are more than 25,000 playas in the high plains. This playa is full in June. This one is not. Where did the water go? Some evaporated, while much of the water seeped down into the ground, recharging the Ogallala aquifer. As in other seasonal wetlands, fairy shrimp are common. An invertebrate oddity, the tadpole shrimp is related to fairy shrimp and an important food source for birds foraging in playas. Ostracods, or seed shrimp, belong to another ancient lineage of crustaceans, 450 million years old. This one could be a tasty morsel for a phalarope. Green toads, Great Plain toads, and tiger salamanders are abundant residents of healthy playas where they spend their larval life. The coach whip finds good foraging near a playa with its abundance of amphibians. Many of the waterfowl that breed in the prairie potholes winter in the playas. These green-winged teal have just lifted off a playa. It appears this is a boys' club. Only 2 females here. On this playa, I see northern pintail, mallard, common goldeneye, green-winged teal, and American widgeon. The number of ducks can be staggering. Plenty of other birds use the playas. A mixed flock of brewers and red-winged blackbirds feeds at the edge of a playa in winter. Playas are favorite roosting sites for sandhill cranes. A quick sweep of a dip net reveals an abundance of spadefoot toad tadpoles, making for excellent foraging for avocets. Like all other wetlands, playas face threats from human development. This one has been turned into a permanent lake in a city park. It now hosts many non-native species and has lost much of the diversity of its wilder counterparts. It does provide recreation for city residents. Many playas have been degraded or lost to agriculture. And this playa is surrounded by a stockyard with thousands of cows contributing their nutrients to its waters. Research in the playas is helping to conserve this rich habitat. These scientists are sampling the playa for tadpoles. As we've seen, the many types of seasonal wetlands across the country are crucial to the survival of birds and other wildlife, and in need of our attention to conserve them.